So this is an adult bedtime story. If you're interested in being kept informed about future adult bedtime stories, just subscribe below, and if you enjoy this bedtime story, find it helpful, please leave a comment and give it a thumbs up as well. So I hope you enjoy this story. This bedtime story is about someone visiting a hypnotist for past life regression. And so you'll be taking on the role of that person visiting the hypnotist for past life regression. And so to listen to this, make sure that it's at a time when you can relax fully, when you can pay this your full attention, when you won't be disturbed, when you can just drift comfortably asleep. And as you listen to this and drift comfortably asleep, I don't know whether you'll fall asleep faster because of the words I use, because of the sound of my voice, or perhaps the spaces between my words. So while you drift comfortably asleep, I'll guide you through this story. So you decide one day that you're curious about past life regression. You're curious about whether you've lived before. And if you have lived before, what did you do? Who were you? What were your past lives like? So you visit a hypnotist. And when you turn up at the hypnotist's office, he guides you into his room, where you see this incredibly comfy chair. He suggests you take a moment to sit comfortably in that chair, to make yourself comfortable in that chair, to take a few comfortable breaths, and to just let relaxation happen. And you don't necessarily know how to just let relaxation happen. So you just sit in the chair. And you notice the chair is so comfortable that your shoulders begin to relax. The chair is so comfortable that your back begins to relax, that your bottom and your legs begin to relax, that your arms and hands begin to relax. And you notice how all of this is happening automatically and instinctively. You're not trying to make any of this happen, it's just happening automatically and instinctively. And as your body continues to relax, so your eyes get heavy, and as they get heavier and heavier, you notice how the eyelids blink shut, and as the eyelids shut, all by themselves. So a wave of relaxation spreads down your body from the top of your head all the way down to the tips of your toes. And the hypnotist hasn't even started talking yet. All this happened just because the chair was so comfortable. Just so incredibly comfortable. And then the hypnotist gently leans forward. Says, "That's right." Relaxing deeper and deeper. Becoming more and more relaxed as you listen to the sound of my voice. And as you listen to the sound of my voice, so you will begin to journey back in time. You'll begin to journey back in time. To a time before you were born. And as the hypnotist talks to you and tells you these things, your mind begins to wander backwards in time, and you feel a certain warmth or pressure or heaviness, or a certain sensation as you drift deeper into the experience, and as your mind drifts back in time. And initially you just get flashes and glimmers of light and subtle elements of images. And then these elements of images, these flashes of light, start to form into something more. And then it's almost as if you just blink once or twice or 3 times and open your eyes, finding yourself lying on a cobbled street, hearing the sounds of some bells in the background, the clippity-clop of horses and carts' wheels on the cobbled street, the sounds of people chattering and getting on with daily life. As you feel the cobbles beneath your hands, your legs as you're lying there, wondering where you are, what this life is. And as you look around yourself, you see a nearby pub, and you feel a bit woozy, and you realise you must have been drinking in the pub, and perhaps you've fallen over when you came out. And you look around, and you can smell the air, and you can sense the atmosphere. And you feel warm and happy. And you gaze over, and through a slight haze you see people having fun, enjoying themselves. And then you see a newspaper seller, a boy standing on a street corner, and you go over and you have a look at the paper, and you see the date, 1874. And you notice the paper is a London paper. And you start exploring this past life. Exploring London, 1874. And by this point, the hypnotist's voice seems to have just vanished into the background, as you become more and more absorbed in the past life. And you look for what you can learn about yourself from this past life. Why this life? What does it mean? What does it teach you? And you explore the life. And then as you become more deeply absorbed in the experience, and you explore and you go to the River Thames and you have a look at the Thames and you see sailboats heading down the river, and you notice what the sun looks like in the sky, what the clouds look like. And as you gaze at the sun and clouds, so things begin to change. And almost like a merging of images, you find yourself standing in a university campus on a path, at a crossroads on the path, and the path is quite white and the grass is very green and there are plenty of trees, and you notice from what the buildings look like and from the way people are dressed that this must be the 1700s. And so you ask someone as they walk nearby for the exact date. And they say it's April 4th, 1763. And you wonder what relevance or meaning this must have for you. Why did you end up here? And you explore this past life. And it can seem so real. Seeing what you see, hearing what you hear, feeling what you feel. And every now and then, you just get a glimmer of the hypnotist's voice in the background. But mostly, you're in this past life that's like leading a real life, and you wonder what you're supposed to learn here. And so you continue exploring this life. And you realize you've got a ring on you, and that you plan on proposing, and you don't know who to or why, or what the relationship's like, but you take some time to find out. And then after a while, the university campus begins to change again. And you have a sense of drifting back deeper and deeper in time. And the university seems to be transforming into a pyramid. And the grass seems to be turning sandier. And you discover yourself in ancient Egypt, at a time when gods were virtually real, when the pharaohs were thought to be the gods, and the gods were thought to genuinely come out at night and come out in the morning, and to influence the world around them. And you're working hard, dragging a giant stone with 100 other people. You can notice the tension in the legs, dragging that stone, the effort that's required. Wondering what you're learning from this experience. And you continue to explore the experience, unaware of how guided you are by the hypnotist, because you can barely notice the hypnotist's voice in the background as you're absorbed in the past life. And then after a short while you get an epiphany. You suddenly realize the connection between the lives, between the roles that you've been taking. You suddenly learn something about yourself, some inner discovery, inner wisdom. And once you discover this, you start making your journey back to the hypnotist's office, through one past life, then the other, working your way back to the hypnotist's office, where you find yourself deeply hypnotized. And as the story comes to an end, when you reach the office, and when the hypnotist brings that you round, you can continue drifting deeper into a comfortable sleep, drifting off comfortably, deeply asleep, soundly, comfortably, deeply asleep. Finding it easy and effortless to drift off to sleep.